The colony trade station was always busy, but inside one small house on the edge of the settlement, life was quiet, almost normal, even in the middle of the stars. A human man lived there with his 3 children. He worked during the day repairing cargo systems, and in the evening he came home to cook simple meals. The children filled the house with laughter, noise, and sometimes trouble, but it was still a home. That night, the smell of stew filled the air as the man placed bowls on the table. His children sat waiting, their eyes bright, their stomachs hungry. Just as he was about to sit down, the door opened without warning. Everyone froze. Standing in the doorway was a tall alien woman, her skin pale silver under the dim lights, her clothing torn and dust-covered. She looked weak, almost ready to collapse. The man stood quickly, placing himself between her and the children. His eyes narrowed with caution, but his voice was calm. "Who are you?" he asked. The woman swayed slightly before answering. Her voice was low, heavy with both pride and pain. I am no one," she whispered, then added bitterly, "I cannot even have children. My kind calls me useless." The children stared at her, not understanding, but the man only looked at her for a moment before something strange happened. He smiled, a small, warm smile that made her pause. "Good," he said gently. "I've got enough kids for both of us." The alien woman blinked, stunned. No one had ever spoken to her like that. In her world, those words would have been an insult, a confirmation of her failure. But here in this small human home, they felt different. They felt like acceptance. The youngest child tugged on the man's sleeve. "Papa, is she staying?" he asked with innocent curiosity. The man did not answer right away. He noticed the woman's wounds, the way she held her side as if hiding pain. He saw the exhaustion in her eyes and something else too, fear, deep and sharp. She was running from something. "You're hurt," he said quietly, his voice softer now. "Sit down before you fall down." She hesitated, her pride fighting against her weakness, but her legs gave her no choice. Slowly, she stepped into the house. The children moved aside, watching her with wide eyes. She sat at the edge of the table, stiff and unsure, as if she did not belong. The eldest child, braver than the others, pushed a bowl toward her. "You can have mine," he said. The alien woman looked down at the steaming stew, then back at the boy. Her throat tightened. No one in her life had ever offered her kindness without expecting something in return. Her people measured worth in strength, in fertility, and power. She had none of those. Yet here a human child offered her food without judgment. She whispered almost to herself, "Why?" The boy shrugged, his answer simple. "Because you look hungry." For a long moment the house was quiet except for the crackle of the cooking fire. Then the man sat down again, his voice steady but carrying a weight of meaning. "Eat. You're safe here tonight." The alien woman lifted the spoon slowly, her hands trembling. The stew was plain, but as the warmth spread through her body, something inside her began to shift. She had expected rejection, mockery, or at best indifference. Instead, she found herself surrounded by something she had never truly known. Family. The children began to chatter again, slowly forgetting their fear. They asked her questions, where she came from, why her skin shimmered like metal, why her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. She answered little, only giving short replies, but each word revealed how far she had traveled and how much she had lost. Finally, one of the children asked the question she dreaded. "Don't you have a family?" Her chest tightened and her eyes lowered. "No," she said softly. "My people turned away from me." Silence followed. The children glanced at their father, uncertain if they had said something wrong. But he only leaned back in his chair, watching her with calm eyes. "Then maybe," he said in a steady voice, "you've just found one." The alien woman's eyes lifted to meet his. She searched his face for sarcasm, for cruelty, for the hidden sting she always expected. But there was none. Only honesty. Only a man who had already carried loss and hardship, yet still found space in his heart for kindness. She did not know it yet, but in that simple moment, everything changed. The words he spoke would echo in her mind long after that night. For the first time in her life, she felt something new, something terrifying and beautiful all at once. Hope. The alien woman did not sleep that night. While the children rested in their small beds, their laughter still echoing in her mind, she sat quietly near the window. Outside, the colony lights flickered in the distance, small glows against the endless dark of space. She pressed her hand against her side where her wound burned. But it was not the pain of the body that troubled her most. It was the pain of memory. She thought of her people, of the world she had fled. In her society, strength and lineage were everything. The ability to create new life was the highest honor. But when the healers told her she could never bear children, her fate was sealed. She became invisible, worthless in their eyes. They did not see her as a warrior or a scholar or even a person. They saw her as broken, something to be discarded. She remembered the faces of those who had turned away. Once she had dreamed of love, of partnership, of finding her place among her kind. Instead, she was cast aside. Her name erased from family records, her value measured and declared empty. That rejection had cut deeper than any blade. And yet tonight had been different. Tonight a human had looked at her and smiled, not with pity but with warmth. His words still echoed in her mind. Good. I've got enough kids for both of us. She could not understand it. Why would he accept her so easily? Why would children she had never met offer her food, laugh at her stories, and look at her with eyes that held no judgment? It felt unreal, almost like a dream she feared to wake from. Her hands tightened around the edge of the chair. She wanted to push these feelings away, to remind herself that this was only temporary. She was a fugitive, a runaway hiding in the shadows of the galaxy. Her presence here could bring danger to these humans, and yet her heart ached with something she had not allowed herself to feel in years. Belonging. In the morning, the man found her still awake. He noticed the dark circles under her eyes, the stiffness in her posture. For a moment, he did not speak. Then, quietly, he placed a cup of warm tea in front of her. You don't have to tell me everything, he said softly, but secrets have a way of finding us. If you're running from something, I need to know. The alien woman's throat tightened. She wanted to remain silent, to guard her past like armor. But when she looked into his steady eyes, she saw no threat, no judgment. Only a strange patience, the patience of someone who had already carried heavy burdens. Slowly, with a voice rough from years of silence, she began to speak. I was born to a proud clan, she said. But when they discovered I could not bring life into this world, I was marked as worthless. They said I had no purpose. They sold me. Her hands shook as she admitted the truth. To them, I was no more than an object to trade. The man's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening with quiet anger. The children who had crept close to listen gasped. One of them whispered, That's not fair. The alien woman lowered her gaze. It does not matter. It is what I am. But the man shook his head. His voice was firm now, carrying strength that filled the room. No, that's what they told you. It's not what you are. Here, you are not useless. You are not broken. You are simply you. The children nodded eagerly, their small voices adding, You can stay with us. You're already part of the family. The alien woman's chest tightened, her vision blurring. For years she had carried the weight of rejection, believing herself empty. Yet here, in the home of strangers, she felt the first cracks forming in that belief. The warmth of their acceptance pressed against her loneliness, and for the first time in her life, she dared to imagine that maybe she was not alone after all. Days passed quietly in the small colony house. The alien woman helped the children with small chores, though she had never done such things before. She fixed torn clothes with clumsy hands, carried water with her strong arms, and even told them short stories from her homeworld. The children laughed, and sometimes even the man smiled. For the first time in years, she felt the weight on her chest grow lighter. But peace never lasts long for those who run. One evening, as the sky above the colony shifted into night, the man walked back from the repair docks. His sharp eyes noticed something unusual. Two strangers stood near the supply market, pretending to argue over prices. Their eyes, however, kept drifting toward the path to his home. Their clothes were travel-worn, but their movements were too precise, too sharp. They were not merchants. The man's steps slowed, his old instincts stirring. He had once been a soldier before he became a father. He knew the way hunters moved. When he entered the house, his children rushed to greet him, but he silenced them with a small motion of his hand. His eyes found the alien woman. She noticed his change in mood immediately. What is it? She asked quietly. He spoke in a low voice so the children would not hear. Someone's watching the house. Her body went cold. The memory of her clan's mercenaries, the ones sent to drag her back, struck like a blade. She stood so quickly her chair scraped against the floor. They've found me, she whispered, panic flashing in her glowing eyes. I cannot stay. If I remain, they will hurt you. The man shook his head firmly. No. If they've come this far, they won't stop chasing you. Running again will only bring them closer to my children next time. His hand tightened into a fist. We protect family here. And right now, you are family. The words cut through her fear, steadying her heart for a moment. But her guilt rose higher. You don't understand, she said, her voice breaking. My people don't forgive. They will keep coming until they have me. You risk everything by keeping me here. Before he could answer, the youngest child padded into the room, rubbing sleepy eyes. Papa, who's outside? The alien woman's heart sank. Even the children could sense the tension in the air. She reached out and brushed the child's hair back gently. It's nothing, she said softly, though her hands trembled. That night the man stayed awake, watching from the window. In the distance he saw shadows moving at the edge of the colony lights. Whoever they were patient. They did not rush. They waited, knowing their prey was trapped. Inside, the alien woman lay awake too. She hated herself for the danger she had brought upon this family. Every moment she stayed risked their safety. Her instinct screamed at her to leave, to vanish into the stars once more. But then she heard the soft breathing of the children in the next room, and her resolve faltered. They had looked at her with trust, with love, something she had never known before. Could she really abandon that? The night dragged on, heavy with silence. Beyond the walls of the small home, unseen eyes were watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The alien woman gripped the edge of her blanket, her heart torn between fear and something far stronger, the beginnings of belonging. And in that dark, fragile moment, she realized the truth. She was no longer only running for herself. If those shadows came closer, she would have to make a choice to keep running forever, or to finally stand and fight, not for herself but for the humans who had called her family. The night stretched long and heavy. The man had fallen into light sleep in his chair by the window, but the alien woman remained awake. Every shadow outside seemed alive. Every sound in the distance reminded her of the hunters who once dragged people away in chains. Her heart was torn. She had found warmth here, the laughter of children, the calm strength of the man, the safety of a home. But deep inside she believed it could not last. She told herself this family deserved better than the danger she carried like a curse. When the first faint glow of dawn touched the colony sky, she made her choice. Quietly, she rose from her bed. She moved with silent steps across the room, pausing at the sight of the sleeping children. The youngest lay curled up with a toy in his hand, soft breaths rising and falling. For a moment her chest tightened. A strange ache filled her, the ache of someone who had never been a mother yet felt something dangerously close to it. She shook her head, forcing the weakness away. Better they forget me, she whispered to herself. Better I leave before I bring harm. She reached the door and placed her hand on the lock. But before she could open it, a small voice stopped her. Don't go. She froze, her heart hammering. Slowly she turned. The youngest child was standing in the hallway, his eyes half asleep but filled with quiet fear. He clutched his toy tightly as if holding on to courage. You'll leave us, won't you? The child whispered. The alien woman's throat closed. She wanted to lie, to say she was only stepping outside, but she couldn't. Not when his eyes looked straight into her soul. I don't belong here, she said softly, her voice trembling. I only bring danger. If I stay, bad people will come. The child shook his head firmly, surprising her with his small but steady voice. We don't care. We need you. Papa says family protects each other. You're family now. The words struck harder than any blade. Family. Her own people had thrown her away, stripped her name, erased her worth. Yet here in the mouth of a child she was being claimed as something precious. She dropped to her knees, tears she had hidden for years burning down her face. The child walked forward and wrapped his tiny arms around her neck. She froze, her body stiff at first, then slowly, carefully she returned the embrace. The sound stirred the man awake. He stood at the window, watching silently as the alien woman held his child like a mother would. For a moment their eyes met across the room. No words were spoken, but something passed between them. Understanding, trust, and unspoken promise. When the child finally drifted back to sleep in her arms, she carried him to his bed. She lingered there for a long time, brushing his hair back gently before returning to the table where the man now stood. You should have let me go. She whispered, ashamed. Your children. They deserve safety. The man shook his head. His voice was calm, steady, but strong as steel.
Safety means nothing without love.
You think leaving protects them? It doesn't. What protects them is knowing the people they love don't walk away. The alien woman looked at him, trembling, her heart torn wide open. No one in her life had ever chosen her. Yet here, in this fragile home, both man and children had done exactly that. And in that moment, she understood. Trust was not something you earned by being perfect. It was something you accepted when others offered it freely. For the first time in her life, she chose to stay. The attack came without warning. It was deep night when the first sound shattered the silence, the hiss of a door being forced open at the colony's edge. The man jolted awake, instincts firing like they had in old battles long past. He didn't need to look to know. The hunters had arrived. The children stirred, frightened by the noise outside. He motioned for them to stay quiet, his hand raised in calm command. The alien woman's eyes glowed faintly in the dark, fear returning, but behind it burned something new. Resolve. Shadows moved outside the window. Figures crept closer, their steps silent, their weapons ready. These were not thieves. These were mercenaries, trained to capture, not to kill. The man's voice was low but steady as stone. Stay behind me. No one touches this family. The alien woman's breath caught. Family. He had called her that again, even in the face of danger. Her heart beat wildly, but this time not only with fear. It beat with the fire of someone who refused to lose what she had just begun to find. The door burst open. Armed figures poured inside, their alien armor catching the pale light. One of them barked in a harsh tongue, ordering her to stand down. The man stepped forward, unarmed but unyielding. His children huddled behind him, wide-eyed but trusting. His posture, his voice, his gaze. Everything about him spoke of a soldier who had once faced death and did not bend to it. You will not take her, he said firmly. The mercenary sneered. She belongs to us. Step aside, human. But humans, she realized, were strange creatures. They did not step aside when family was threatened. The man's mind worked fast. With no weapons, he used what the house offered. A heavy chair swung with brutal force, a pot of boiling water thrown across armor gaps, a flash of light to blind their eyes. He fought with everything at hand, not with elegance, but with raw determination. The alien woman watched in shock. Her people measured worth in bloodlines and strength. But here was a human proving that worth could come from love. He fought not for himself, but for his children, for her. And in that moment, something inside her snapped free. She would not be the reason this family broke. She surged forward, her own hand striking with alien strength, her body moving with the precision of training long buried. Together, human and alien fought back to back, driving the mercenaries away from the children. One of the attackers lunged at the eldest child, but the alien woman moved faster than thought. She caught the mercenary's arm, twisted, and threw him across the room with a cry that was half fury, half defiance. For the first time, she wasn't fighting for survival alone. She was fighting for them. The battle was fierce but short. The mercenaries had not expected resistance like this. A lone human standing unarmed against armed soldiers should have fallen quickly, but he hadn't. And worse, the useless alien woman they hunted now fought with the rage of a mother protecting her children. Finally, bruised and beaten, the mercenaries withdrew into the shadows, their leader snarling, "This isn't over. She will be taken. No human can stop us forever." The door slammed shut behind them, leaving silence broken only by heavy breathing. The children rushed forward, clinging to both the man and the alien woman. Their small voices trembled but carried truth. "We knew you'd protect us. Both of you." The alien woman stood frozen, her hand still shaking. She looked at the human man, his face bloodied but steady, his arms around the children. In her chest, a realization burned brighter than fear. She was no longer an outcast. Tonight she had become something her people said she could never be. She had become part of a family. The house was quiet after the fight, but it was not the same quiet as before. The air carried the smell of burned fabric, cracked wood, and fear that still lingered in the corners. Yet beneath it all was something stronger, the fragile warmth of survival. The man sat at the table, his arm wrapped in rough bandages made from torn cloth. His face was bruised, his breath heavy, but his eyes were steady. He had fought worse battles before, but never one that meant this much. The children clung to the alien woman, refusing to leave her side. She stood stiff at first, unused to such closeness, but slowly her hands came alive, resting gently on their shoulders. Their small bodies pressed against her, not out of fear but out of trust. They believed in her now. She looked down at them, her chest aching with a feeling she could hardly name. She had never been allowed near children of her kind. To her people she was empty, a failure unworthy of family. Yet here were 3 human children holding her as if she were already theirs. The eldest spoke softly, his voice shaky but firm. "You're one of us now." The words pierced deeper than any wound she had carried. She wanted to deny it, to push them away, but her heart betrayed her. Tears blurred her vision, silent but unstoppable. For the first time she wept not for her loneliness, but for the gift she had been given. The man watched from across the room. He did not speak, but in his tired eyes there was understanding. He had raised his children alone after loss had hollowed his life. He knew the weight of emptiness. And now, as he looked at her holding his children, he saw something different, the emptiness fading. Later that night, when the children finally fell asleep huddled together, the alien woman sat beside the man. She looked at her hands, still trembling from both battle and emotion. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why would you fight for me? I bring nothing but danger. I am nothing to your kind." The man leaned back, his voice calm but filled with the quiet fire of truth. "You are wrong. You bring something more important than safety. You bring yourself. And to these children that is enough." Her eyes widened. "But I cannot give them what mothers give. I cannot," he stopped her with a steady gaze. "Family isn't about blood. It's about staying when it's easier to leave. Tonight you stayed. That makes you more than enough." His words echoed inside her, louder than the voices of rejection she had carried all her life. For years she had believed she was broken, incomplete. But tonight, for the first time, she realized something shocking. Perhaps she was not meant to be less. Perhaps she was meant to be different. The alien woman looked toward the children, curled together in sleep, safe because both she and the man had stood against the shadows. She felt it then, not just the bond of survival, but the deeper bond of belonging. She was no longer only a runaway, no longer only a failure. Tonight, in this small human home, she had become something greater. She had become part of a family. The days after the attack were not easy. The house had broken walls, shattered furniture, and scars that would take time to mend. Yet strangely, it felt warmer than ever. Every repair, every small act of rebuilding was done together, human and alien side by side. The children no longer looked at the alien woman with curiosity. They looked at her with certainty, as though she had always been there. When they woke from nightmares of armored shadows, they sought her arms for comfort. When they laughed during the day, they made sure she was part of the game. She had become a pillar in their world without even realizing it. One evening, as the sky outside turned deep red with the setting sun, the family gathered around the table again. The same table where it had all begun, where she had once sat unsure, certain she did not belong. Now she sat with ease, her silver skin catching the warm light, her hands steady as she passed food to the children. The man watched quietly, a faint smile on his face. His home had been empty once, filled only with loss and duty. But now laughter spilled across the walls again. And not just from the children, from her too. It was a sound he had never expected, but one that now felt like the most natural thing in the world. After the meal, when the children had gone to their beds, the alien woman stepped outside. The stars stretched wide above, endless and cold. She had once looked at them as a prisoner, as someone who belonged nowhere. Tonight she looked at them differently. The stars were still endless, but now they no longer felt empty. The man joined her, standing quietly at her side. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence was not heavy, but gentle, like the stillness of a safe home. Finally, she broke it. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" she asked softly. He glanced at her. "Always," he admitted. "But I've learned something. The future isn't about where you come from. It's about who you choose to stand with." Her eyes lowered, shimmering in the starlight. "And if I choose to stand here?" His smile was small, but it carried the weight of truth. "Then you'll never stand alone again." Her chest ached, but not with pain. With something new, something she had never thought possible. She turned toward the house, where the faint sound of children's laughter drifted from their room. She had no blood connection to them, no role her people would recognize. Yet she realized something profound. She did not need to be a mother in the way her kind defined it. She already was one in every way that mattered. A tear slipped down her cheek, but it was not a tear of sorrow. It was a tear of release, of healing. The man noticed but said nothing. Instead, he placed a hand gently on her shoulder, steady and sure. The gesture was simple, but it carried all the words she needed. She looked up at him, her voice trembling but filled with certainty. I was told I could never have children, but here with you, with them, I finally understand. I already have a family, and for the first time she smiled without hesitation. Inside, the children's voices called out, asking for a bedtime story. The alien woman turned, her heart lighter than it had ever been. As she walked back into the warm glow of the home, she whispered to herself the words that had once confused her but now felt like truth. Good. He has enough kids for both of us, and this time she believed it.